cinema, there are these three distinctions that are often made. One is what they called cinema lovers, that there are people who understand cinema, who basically cinema goers, they watch cinema. That is one bigger category. We all are part of that particular category. Second, what they called the cinema makers or the cinema artists, those who make cinema, those who release cinema, those distribute, market, or the kind of theatrical release which are required for cinema making. That is one major part. And there is third component called as the cinema scholars. That cinema is also part of a larger academic discipline. That large number of media studies nowadays is also suggesting that there is a possibility that you will be studying cinema not only as a discipline to understand entertainment, but as a very, very impactful instrument that can dwell in our mind, that can engage with us in such a way that it can impact our socio-cultural, psychological aspect. That idea. And to understand that, there is a whole discipline called cinema studies, which is now growing in a very, very big way across India, across globe. And probably my work mostly reside in the third part, what we call the cinema scholarship, the cinema studies scholarship. And what I will be doing today will not be much talk about the larger historiography of cinema, but linking it with the idea of woman empowerment. That is the larger concern. And mostly, and of course, Girish Wankhede is here, so he will be, of course, speaking a lot about many other aspects on this. But just to start with, that this particular idea that cinema is mainly a medium of entertainment, this idea, or when we watch cinema, we believe that it is basically an instrument of entertaining our pleasure-seeking dynamics, and somewhere it is a kind of an arrangement where we mainly concern about some kind of a pleasure-seeking exercise, nothing more than that. And therefore, the first impression about cinema is mostly that it is a kind of a setup which somewhere underscores your patriarchal values, that it is basically about male patriarchy, it is about some kind of illogical scenes that we see on screen, it is about violence, it is about some kind of a fantasy or illogical values that we can see on screen. That is the kind of a general understanding that we often have whenever we read in an academic and intellectual way how cinema has been understood. And therefore, there is a division within the cinema. That one division is that, of course, there is a popular content of cinema and there is some kind of intellectual content of cinema. And therefore, probably those who have seen the cinemas of 70s or 80s, they understand that this division between art house cinema, parallel cinema, and the commercial popular cinema. What I thought I will be doing, it's very simple. I thought that when we think about cinema, mostly about as an industry, we know that it is a commercial enterprise. It is enterprise mainly for entertaining people. It is basically for a very, very long time has not been engaged with the idea of social justice. This particular idea is very much there. And therefore, when I started reading on cinema, it was what I tried to suggest at that part of time, that probably for a very, very long time, cinema studies is a discipline mainly for the elites, mainly for the what they call social elites. The cinema industry in general remain a very, very elitist institution. And therefore, when we think about participation, when we think about social justice, we believe that probably cinema is somewhere disengaged with these values. And therefore, in most of my work, I thought that I will be engaging with this particular question of how caste and Dalits are represented on screen. What are their representations on screen? And for a very long time, and there are many studies available right now, that this idea that for a very, very long time, the caste and the question of the Dalits, mainly the untouchability question, is almost absent from the screen. There are no takers of these ideas or their struggles on the screen for a very, very long time. And there are the reasons for that. Why? First of all, it was suggested that those who are making cinema, those who are making films, they are coming from a peculiar socio-economic background. They are elite in their class. They are also socially upper caste in their family background. And therefore, when they make films, They basically tell their own stories. Their stories are, those stories that we see on screen are mainly about the stories of the social elite people. And therefore, there is somewhere kind of a neglect of this social question, mainly the question of caste and the untouchability. And within that, probably for a very, very long time, we have not seen much of the people who can speak about the caste and untouchability question. And therefore, when we think about what they call the Dalit representation on screen, what we see is basically for a very, very long time, only handful of films are there which can suggest that there is a Dalit character on screen. Probably you know some of the name, like one of the very popular film called Arakshan. Saif Ali Khan worked in that film. So there are these kind of a popular anecdotes where you know that there was a kind of a caste question that has been updated. What I thought that more than that kind of a larger historiography of Dalit representation on screen such a long time, I thought that I will be mainly restricting myself with the Dalit women's question on screen. And that interests me much. Why? Because for a very long time, on this particular aspect, there is not much thought given. For this particular seminar, I thought that I will be dividing my presentation in three aspects. One, where I will be suggesting that there is a caste question available on screen, and Dalit woman's body was also represented on screen, and how she was represented at the initial level, how it changed in the second level, and how in the contemporary times it is basically changing, and a new empowered Dalit woman is now emerging on the screen. This is the larger task of my lecture. The first task, and for that matter, when you think about cinema, you know that it was not seen as a dignified profession when it started. Even women started refusing that they will act on screen, and therefore, when Dada Saheb Phalke wanted to bring a woman on screen, there was a complete refusal, and he himself has to act like a woman on screen. So that kind of an undignified profession, it was located at that part of time, and therefore, how cinema become what they call a mainstream cultural part. Probably it was the beginning of what you call the national independence struggle, and it was suggested that a cinema can become some kind of alibi or some kind of an instrument in building what they call cultural nationalism, that building the idea of culture on the basis of Hindu mythology. And most of the Dada Saheb Phalke's films were about mythologies, were about larger Hindu cultural values, and in that mainly the arrival of what they call goddesses on screen became one of the first incident where woman appearance was very much visible. But this was also the time when there was also concern about what they call nation building process. And large number of people were also believed that Gandhi or Nehru were the two very important leaders of national independence struggle, and their ideas should reflect on screen. And therefore, you will find that multiple cinemas of 50s and 60s somewhere suggested that their cinema is mainly about nation building process. And if you see Naya Daur for that matter, or Mother India of 50s and 60s, you'll find that this film were basically speaking about how our feudal cultural values are now changing into a modern economic developed country. And that development from feudalism towards a modern country, that idea was very much visible in this film. And further, what they call the woman-oriented cinema was also emerging in a bigger way. Mother India was, of course, a very, very important contribution at that part of time. Bimal Roy did a wonderful job. But we can also understand that this was also the time when Ambedkarite movement was also taking a very, very grand shape in Maharashtra, in Mumbai, particularly where cinema industry was such a powerful tool. There, of course, that movement was taking shape. But we'll find that for a very, very long time, when 50s and 60s, cinema was produced on the issue of social justice or exploitation or feudalism, we'll find that complete blinding towards the Dalit and the caste question. That problem is very much there. And the only film in the large era of 10 years when these films were made, what they call the golden age of Hindi cinema, when multiple cinemas were made at that part of time, you'll find that only a single film which was produced in 50s was Sujata. And Sujata was the only film which was about untouchability, which was about caste hierarchies and the Brahminical domination. And there was no other film. Earlier to that, you will find that Achut or Achut Kanya in 30s and in 36, you will find that these are the other 2 or 3 films which talked about untouchability and women's composition. And these 2 films, Achut Kanya and Sujata, you will find that these 2 films are mainly speaking about what they call a docile, humble, and a very receptive or a passive woman body, a Dalit woman's body. So caste question was raised, Dalit identity question was raised, but it was raised through what they call a feminine body, a feminine Dalit body. And therefore probably Bandit Queen was that film where the idea of a hero emerged in such a powerful way that almost like a mainstream hero in the sense like Amitabh Bachchan, that who will not carry the burden of exploitation in his belly, but will exploit, will explode and challenge the hegemonic power with kind of gut and heroism. That capacity was now seen with Fulan Devi. And that's why kind of a new churning can emerge during that time.
अगर स्त्रियों की हम बात करें तो स्त्रियों के लिए सबसे लुक्रेटिव, सबसे अमेजिंग जो काम है वो है राइटिंग का काम. जूही चतुर्वेदी, कनिका ढिल्लन, नंदिता दास, इनकी किताबें आप पढ़िए, इनकी फिल्में पढ़िए और सबसे पहले समझिए कि स्टोरी, स्क्रीन प्ले और डायलॉग्स क्या होते हैं. और मुझे विश्वास है कि यहाँ जितने लोग बैठे हैं बहुत ही कम महिलाएं हैं, पर इनमें से कोई एक महिला भी कभी कुछ लिख लेगी तो मुझे खुशी होगी कि उन्होंने कुछ लिखा है. और लिखने के लिए उनको इंस्पायर होना पड़ेगा. इंस्पायर किन चीज़ों से होंगे आप लोग? इस तरीके के भाषणों से आप इंस्पायर नहीं होने वाले. आप इंस्पायर तब होगे जब आप कुछ देखोगे. इंस्पायर तब होगे जब आपको लगेगा कि वो स्त्री हमारे जैसी थी लेकिन वो वहाँ पहुँची है, अब हमको भी वहाँ पहुँचना है. गिरीश वानखेड़े नागपुर के इंदौरा में 10 नंबर पुल के बाजू में रहता था, जो गुरुनानक हाई स्कूल में पढ़ा. उसने 12वीं गवर्नमेंट टेक्निकल हाई स्कूल में की, बाद में उसने अमरावती इंजीनियरिंग की और आज वो प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में शाहरुख खान के साथ होता है. तो वो इसलिए होता है क्योंकि उसको फिल्मों से मोहब्बत है. तो आपको अगर फिल्मों से मोहब्बत है, फिल्मों से प्यार है, तो आप उस मुकाम पे पहुंचोगे. और फिर रहेगा माली हालत. तो आर्थिक स्थिति जो होती है, कितनी नौकरियां करके आपने उन सारे लोगों को देख लिया जो नौकरी करने के बाद पहले 3 सालों में एक स्कूटर ले लेते हैं, बाद में 4 सालों के बाद पिताजी के पेंशन के बाद एक घर ले लेते हैं, बाद में बच्चे के बर्थडे मनाते हैं. 2-3 बर्थडे मनाने के बाद लोगों को बताते हैं कि हम कितने संपन्न हैं. इससे बढ़ के ज़िंदगी हम क्या जीते हैं? पर कई बार ऐसे लोग हैं जिन्होंने इस तरीके की सिक्योरिटी वाली ज़िंदगी को तोड़ दिया, छोड़ दिया, वो यहाँ से निकल गए कहीं और. इसलिए वो कहा जाता है कि Socrates would not be Socrates if he had not been to Paris. अमिताभ बच्चन would not be अमिताभ बच्चन if he would not come to Mumbai. वो इलाहाबाद में होता तो वहाँ पे थिएटर कर रहा होता, पर वो बॉम्बे आए और वहाँ पर एक्टर बने. तो आपको एम्स और आपके जज्बात, आपके गोल्स बड़े होने चाहिए. वो कहा जाता है कि जिनके आदर्श बड़े होते हैं वो लोग बड़े होते हैं. तो अगर आपको बड़ा बनना है तो आपके आदर्श बड़े होने चाहिए. और आदर्श क्या है? आदर्श है लेखक, आदर्श है डायरेक्टर्स, आदर्श है आर्ट डायरेक्टर्स, आदर्श है राइटर्स, आदर्श है कलाकार. तो ये जो कलाकार है, कलाकारों को के बारे में कहा जाता है कि भगवान के पास सबसे समक्ष कोई होता है वो कलाकार होता है. और कलाकार ये सिर्फ पैदा नहीं होता, वो अपनी कला के इंटरेस्ट के साथ साथ उस कला में वो दक्ष हो सकता है. उसके लिए उसको सीखना होता है, उसके लिए वो कोई गुरु लगता है और उसके बाद वो सीखता है. तो मेरा आज की तारीख में आप सारे लोगों से ये कहना है कि महिलाओं के लिए अगर हम अच्छी बात कर सकें या उनके प्रोग्रेस की या उनके उत्थान की बात कह सकें, तो हम उनको बताएं कि उनकी ज़िंदगी में सिर्फ वही रास्ते अख्तियार ना करें वो जो कन्वेंशनल है, जो रेगुलर है. उन रास्तों पे ना जाएं. कुछ ऐसा करें जो अनकन्वेंशनल हो, जो आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स हो, जो दुनिया से अलग हो. कुछ ऐसा हो जो आपके नेबर ने कभी नहीं किया, कुछ ऐसा हो जो आपकी कॉलोनी में कभी हुआ ही नहीं, कुछ ऐसा करो जो आपके शहर में कभी नहीं हुआ. जब ये आपकी सोच होगी तो शायद आप कुछ अच्छा कर पाओगे। और फिल्मों के जो करियर है उसमें आर्ट डायरेक्शन आपके लिए वहाँ पर सीन बना क्रिएट होता है, इसलिए आर्ट डायरेक्शन होता है। राइटिंग आपके लिए है, एक्टिंग आपके लिए है, सिंगिंग आपके लिए है, और आपके लिए हर क्षेत्र खुला है। पहले ज़माने में ये सोचा जाता कि हम वहाँ पहुँचेंगे कैसे, वहाँ तो कास्टिज़म होता है। मैं आपको बता दूँ, फिल्म इंडस्ट्री एक ऐसी इंडस्ट्री है जहाँ पे कोई भी कास्टिज़म नहीं है। ये एक ही ऐसी इंडस्ट्री होगी, क्योंकि मैं 20 साल से हूँ और उसमें मैंने कोई कास्टिज़म नहीं देखा। कास्टिज़म सिर्फ उनके लिए है जो लेज़ी है, जो आलसी है, जिनको रीज़न चाहिए, एक्सक्यूज़ चाहिए ये बोलने के लिए कि यार हम वहाँ इसलिए नहीं पहुँच पाए क्योंकि हमारी कास्ट ये है। जिनके पास एक्सक्यूज़ है उनके पास फेल्योर है, जिनके पास कोई एक्सक्यूज़ नहीं उनके पास सक्सेस है। तो जिनको सक्सेसफुल होना होता है ना, उनके पास एक्सक्यूजेस नहीं होते, उनके पास जात नहीं होती।
When beauty meets art, then there emerges a monument of unrivaled loveliness, such as the Taj, famously described as the teardrop on the cheek of eternity. But the master craftsmen and workers who left their indelible mark on this memorial were not rewarded. Their hands were brutally chopped off. Conscientious and dedicated hard work, therefore, deserves due recognition. In fact, each and every minuscule contribution calls for appreciation. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. It is a powerful catalyst for happiness. To begin from the very beginning, then, the brasha which brought you to this prominent address was scripted by our very own BCA department, comprising of Dr. Prashant Yende, Dr. Harsha Pethe, Dr. Priyanka Soitskar, Ms. Shama Khan, and Mr. Sadij Shah. While the finishing touches were accorded by the very creative Dr. Rahul Kamble from the zoology department, from the botany department. The WDC team, which includes the brilliant tech-savvy Mr. Manoj Andraskar and the bevy of beautiful women, Dr. Varsha Panbude, Dr. Archana Meshram, Dr. Anita Tirpure, Ms. Shilpa Rathod, Ms. Priyanka Soitskar, Ms. Leena Shende, and Ms. Sheetal Kurve are thanked for their concerted cooperation and assistance. I thank everyone for their kind cooperation towards facilitating and forging this conference in action and making it see the light of day. I also thank all the participants for their overwhelming presence. Friends, the WDC was instituted in the year 2001 by late visionary principal Dr. R. Krishna Kumar for the enhancement and empowerment of womanhood, not only within the environs of this institution, but beyond it too. For empowering women and girls is the key to social transformation. As such, the Women's Development Cell of the college is working towards transforming gender power equations in the Indian society. This cell was constituted with the objective of enhancing women's image in the society by creating varied opportunities for their well-being, self-actualization, dignity, and self-worth. To achieve this end, the WDC organizes various activities to create awareness amongst women employees and students about their rights, career prospects, mental and physical well-being, financial freedom, etc. WDC is working towards sustainable development to provide a safe and conducive environment for both all genders to work in a constructive manner. Hence, we also organize activities to orient male members of this institution as well, as we strongly believe that participation of all genders is very important to bring attitudinal change required to bring gender justice. Women empowerment and gender equality is very crucial to our development. It is essential for the realization of human rights and key to effective and sustainable development outcomes. And so, the title of the conference was set in keeping with the theme of the International Women's Year 2023. A woman is the full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. Though women make up more than half of the world's population, they are often more deeply impacted than men and boys by poverty, climate change, food insecurity, and lack of health care. Empowerment of women is not only important for an equitable society, it is essential to build stronger economies. Development is not sustainable if it is unequal. Our aim in this conference is therefore to discuss and deliberate upon strategies which must be designed to enhance the capacity of women and empower them to create a climate in which there is no gender discrimination and women and girls have full opportunities of self-decision making and to participate in the social, political, and economic life of the country with a sense of equality. Thus, we have come up with three broad themes of women in the corporate sector, challenges and opportunities. Second is women through the lens of media. And the third is women in the business sector as entrepreneurs. In conclusion, we look forward to have a well-informed and knowledgeable dissemination of knowledge and ideas today and tomorrow with enthusiastic participation to make this conference more meaningful and promising.
वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट पे यहाँ पर बहुत मेरे सामने जो बैठे हैं अपने आप में बहुत बड़ी विभूति, जिससे यहाँ मेरे सामने बैठी हुई है विमल थोरा जी बैठी है, JNU से वानखेड़े मैडम बैठी हुई है और बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं। वो अपने आप में अथॉरिटी है और वो उनका जो एक ब्रेन स्टॉर्मिंग डेलिब्रेशन यहाँ होने वाला है उसका यहाँ बैठे हुए प्रत्येक शिक्षक, स्टूडेंट, रिसर्च स्कॉलर्स, सोशल वर्कर्स सबको इसका फ़ायदा उठाना चाहिए और वुमन एम्पावरमेंट के लिए क्या क्या स्ट्रेटजिक प्लान हम कर सकते हैं इन फ्रेमिंग लॉज और वुमन सिक्योरिटी, इन सब बातों का यहाँ विचार होगा और इन सब का फ़ायदा हमारे समाज में, सोसाइटी में जाएगा और हम एक अच्छे योद्धा वुमन एम्पावरमेंट के लिए बनकर, अच्छे कार्यकर्ता बनकर हम सब काम करेंगे, ऐसी मुझे आशा है। इस कार्यक्रम में श्रोतागण में बैठे हुए पुरुष और महिला दोनों को देखकर मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही, क्योंकि इस बारे में वुमन एम्पावरमेंट के बारे में जितनी मालूमात और जितना कार्य वुमन ने करना चाहिए उतना ही कार्य उस जोश के साथ बच्चों ने भी करना चाहिए मेल, तभी जाके हम इसका जो सही मकसद है वो हम पूरा कर पाएंगे। मेरे सामने मेरी पूर्व विद्यार्थिनी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ साइंस की वैशाली गजमिया बैठी है, बहुत खुशी उनको देखकर। वो जैसे जब भी कहा गया कि आजकल शिक्षक और विद्यार्थियों में संवाद नहीं होता है, लोग भूल जाते नाम, मगर वैशाली मेरा नाम भूला नहीं, मुझे याद किया तबाने सर बोल गए, अच्छा लगा मुझे। वैसे दूसरी विद्यार्थी मेरी भगत मैडम बैठी हुई है, ये सब मेरे विद्यार्थी थे। तो मैं आप सबको फिर से एक बार पुनश्च अभिनंदन करता हूँ आप लोगों का कि आपने इतना अच्छा प्रोग्राम मैडम में आयोजित किया है और अच्छा लगा मुझे। और मुझे और भी खुशी हो रही है कि मेरे सामने एक रिसर्च फील्ड में आज जो उभरता तारा है यूनिवर्सिटी कैंपस में, वो वर्षा धुरे मैडम मेरे सामने बैठी हुई है और उसकी मुझे बहुत खुशी हो रही है। उनके भी भावी जीवन के लिए मैं बहुत शुभकामनाएं देता हूँ। सभी को शुभकामनाएं देते हुए आज के कार्यक्रम की सफलता का मैं फिर से एक बार आशा करता हूँ और बहुत अच्छा ब्रेनस्टॉर्मिंग सेशन यहाँ होंगे और उसका फ़ायदा सबको ही लेंगे, इंक्लूडिंग मी। मैं भी यहाँ भाषण सुनने बैठूंगा, शायद मेरे भी ज्ञान में काफ़ी वृद्धि होंगी और जो आप यहाँ विचार रखेंगे और जो आपसे मुझे ज्ञान मिलेगा, मैं देश में घूमते रहता हूँ तो वहाँ आपका जो संदेश रहेगा वो मैं फैलाते रहूँगा, यह आपको विश्वास दिलाता हूँ।
There is a difference between equity and equality, okay? Most of we are talking about equality. I am talking about equity now. It links gender equity in science to the any country for sustainable development and goals, its goals. Although the relationship to sustainable development goals to achieve are around this theme, such as clean water and or clean energy, is that's very clear. The motto is its connection to these sustainable development goals. Another is one is ending poverty, may be less kind of obvious. I talk about as per science is concerned. And if you look at the World Bank report, which talks about, found that educating girls is one of the most successful ways to promote economic growth and to end intergenerational poverty. This feels particularly poignant, or what is sad, only for months after girls and women in Afghanistan were once again banned from attending schools or university. This is very sad. To alleviate poverty, girls don't need to study science. But whether they need a formal university education in science and become a professional researcher to earn the mother, what is called the, to earn the, to become the moniker, what is called the leaders, women in science, is a less straightforward question to answer. Okay. However, fewer, very less number of women have access to the internet than men, even though they account for nearly half the world population. If women are unable to access the internet and do not feel safe online, they are unable to develop the necessary digital skills today, basically to engage in digital spaces, which diminishes their opportunities to pursue career in science, technology, engineering and mathematics related fields. By 2050, you will find that 75% of jobs will be released for this field, what is called the science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Yet today, women hold just 22% of positions in artificial intelligence. That is statistics, to name just one. That is international statistics. It's tempting to only include professional scientists in either academia or industry, at least one relevant degree in this as per our definitions of STEM basically. After all, modern research is expensive and often requires highly specialized equipment and infrastructure. But the same researchers who have access to all these resources are increasingly discovering that the data crowd sources from citizen scientists are valuable for their research. These people may not do science for a living, but it is hard to dismiss them as not being involved in science. It is fair to say that in this scenario, it will be professional scientists who draw conclusions and develop ideas. However, it would be wrong to assume that no layperson have even made significant contributions. There are many examples for this. Like say our mother cooks a very good dish. For example, wherever you go later in life, you will like that dish only. And there is nothing great than discovering dish than discovering the stars in the sky. It is a very, very interesting, basically that is how our mothers they do. And once, our cartoonist R.K. Lakshman was asked a question. Sir, they said, sir, you always do in a cartoon show, in your cartoons, a common man. Why not common woman? He answered, he said, you are special.
जो इंसान के बनाए हुए रिश्ते हैं उसको महत्व देना शुरू कर दिया, ये थोड़ी गंभीर बात है। इसके बारे में सोचना बहुत ज़रूरी है। भले ही समाज उसके लिए महिला को दोषी ठहराता हो, मगर ऐसा नहीं है। अगर भाई ने ठान लिया कि मैं भाई के साथ रहूँगा तो कोई महिला उनको अलग नहीं कर सकती। ये समझना ज़रूरी है। खून के रिश्ते को महत्व देंगे तो हम सामूहिक रूप से आगे बढ़ेंगे। हम बात कर रहे हैं जेंडर इक्वालिटी की। मैं जब आके मिला, मैंने बात किया, तुरंत ही आया, क्योंकि जो बातें मेरे दिल में थी वो अर्चना मैडम फ़ोन पे कर रही थी, तो मैं तुरंत ही आ गया कि भाई क्या बात है, तुम्हारा दर्द क्या है, हम मिल के बाँटें। क्योंकि अगर हमारे आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री बोलते हैं $5 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी, या हमको वर्ल्ड की सबसे बड़ी अर्थव्यवस्था बनना है, तो देश का 50% सक्षम कॉम्पिटेंट मानव संसाधन अगर घर में बैठा रहा, मेन स्ट्रीम में नहीं आया, तो हम कैसे वर्ल्ड के बेस्ट और सबसे बिगेस्ट इकोनॉमी बन सकते? कहीं ना कहीं क्या हमारी सोच में फ़र्क आया है? क्या जेंडर इक्वालिटी के लिए यानी पहले हम करें कि जेंडर अलग अलग है, इसके लिए दोषी इंसान है कि भगवान है। क्योंकि मेरा मानना ऐसा है, पैदा तो बच्चा होता है, लड़का लड़की पैदा नहीं होते, पैदा बच्चा होता है। हम लोग फिर बोलते हैं ये लड़का है, ये लड़की है, लड़का है तो बिंदी लगा, लड़की है तो बिंदी लगा दे, लड़की है तो ये कपड़े पहना, लड़का है तो ये कपड़े पहना, काला टीका लगा, लड़की को नज़र लगे तो चल जाएगी, लड़के को नहीं लगना चाहिए। ये इनइक्वालिटी जो है ये कहाँ से शुरू हुई? उसके पैदा होते ही शुरू हो गई। और किया किसने? क्या उसकी माँ ने किया? हम इनइक्वालिटी के लिए किसको दोषी माने? मैं सलवार सूट पहन के नहीं आ सकता क्योंकि मैं लड़का हूँ, मैं साड़ी पहन के नहीं आ सकता क्योंकि मैं लड़का हूँ। ये किस समाज ने निर्मित किया है? भगवान ने नहीं किया।
As we all have been celebrating Women's Day since 8th March, so much have been told, so much has been talked about to praise the womanhood here. But I would say that एड़ियाँ उठाने से किरदार ऊंचा नहीं होता, एड़ियाँ उठाने से किरदार ऊंचा नहीं होता, हुनर होगा तो दुनिया कदर करेगी। मुझे इतना ही कहना है कि जेंडर इक्वालिटी, the UN, the theme madam has already shared with us, digital and gender sensitization, gender equality. For development sustainable goals, the UN has declared 5 goals through various means like elimination of all forms of violence, elimination of all harmful practices, for value on unpaid care and domestic work, participation and leadership, productive rights and health, and gender equality to empower women and girls. This is the sustainable goal of United Nations to be achieved till 2030. So here we are here in all the sessions. How to achieve these goals we will discuss through the brainstorming sessions.
Additionally, I would like to address women empowerment and gender equality jointly. As you know, I am coming from a culture, from Armenia, that is usually very patriarchal. And when I was in the government, even today, working in an international organization, oftentimes I have to prove that I'm worthy of attention. The seat at the table is not good enough. Then I need to have the same. And a simple handshake, which is a common thing in my culture, I had to prove every single time that please shake my hand too. Treat me as your equal. And I vividly remember one time when I was in a panel talking about gender equality and women empowerment, and a colleague of mine, the representative from UNICEF, said, whatever is being said about women empowerment is important. But please let's remember, if we are raising strong women, we need to make sure we have strong men. It immediately reminded me of the famous quote from Gloria Steinem, who we know is a very active feminist, who said, we've begun to raise daughters, more like sons, but few have the courage to raise sons more like our daughters. The point being, we need to equally empower boys and girls in our society if we really and truly strive for gender equality and equal roles in our communities. If there is any single country in the world which they can claim that they have accomplished gender equality, allow me in a very humble manner to disagree with that. There are cultures who are very vocal that they have not received that, and there are cultures who pretend that they have received gender equality. It's a long way to go, and we're still not there. I want to share an example with you about an important component of education and how it can shape the identities, part of which is the gender identities that we have in our culture. Not long ago, in the Armenian reality, we had a research that was looking into the textbooks of the native language and history, and also into the stories, to see what are the roles that are being depicted in those stories and the textbooks. Interestingly enough, we see in the textbooks that the woman is usually in the kitchen, cooking, and the man is usually the breadwinner. And we see that this is being depicted throughout the stories, throughout the many folk stories that are being told in the community. And we see that over and over again, the roles that have been imposed are being constantly reiterated. And when a child that is in the very process of developing the brain, of the neural pathways, when they are creating their understanding and perception of the world, their perception of the world is being distorted by the stories we tell them about the role distributions in the community. We oftentimes also meet the stories that says, usually these are the boys that are reaching to the scientific evolution and they're coming up with a groundbreaking research. And the girls rarely are the ones who are leading a team or who are coming up with a groundbreaking innovation. And an innovation in this area would be perhaps finding out a methodology that will tell a similar story, but would perhaps make women a hero, as much as man can be a hero. So this can be an innovation. Interestingly enough, we believe that we have come a long way, which is true. We have come a long way in terms of gender equality, women empowerment, ensuring that we do not have really that much gender-specific roles. However, the data of 2021 shows that only 18% of the executive roles are occupied by women. In the workforce, women have the biggest representation, which is 37%. And as much as it pains me, only 5% globally of the chief executive officers are women.
In our times, we used to sit girls on this side, boys on this side. And these roots basically lie in our upbringing. And whenever we talk about women empowerment, we must think about their independence, especially the financial independence. And what we should do is, first we should inculcate this thing in our boys. Boys need to be educated for this. And our parenting, आमचे संस्कार, the values we impart to our boys is more important than values or the teachings we impart to our girls. And unless and until we focus on our parenting, upbringing of our boy child, we cannot hammer on this problem. This is my view. I know that each and every one sitting over here has a problem and a solution in his mind. But as I said, that education could be the only solution for that. Not only educating girls, educating boys. And what I see is educated parents. I will just give you one example. Our family lives just in front of my home, uh, elder brother and his wife are not so educated, and fortunately they have two boys, boy child. And the younger brother and his wife, fairly educated, both are MBA, both have done their graduation in science, and they have a girl child. Both parents, the younger brother and his wife, they are really rearing the girl child in a way, and the mother gives a lot of time. She will take her to dance class, to gymnastics, to drawing class, and to other tuition classes, but not focusing on the education, but on getting all these skills. And I feel very surprised that this type of education one should impart to a girl child. It's not that the mother should devote time for that, and even her father is devoting time for that. And unless and until we educate or we impart skills to our girl child in a way, the way I am looking in front of my house. So, as I said, हा गोळाचा गणपती अजून जास्त बोलू शकत नाही, एवढं झालं तेवढंच खूप झालं. आणि कारण आज जे बसलेले आहेत आणि बोलणार आहेत, मला माहीत आहे खूप मोठाले लोक आहेत आणि काही ना काही सोल्युशन, मला माहीत आहे याला काही खूप 100% सोल्युशन निघणार नाही, पण आजच्या डेलिबरेशनमध्ये काही ना काही वे आउट निघेल.
Generally, there is a belief that Western countries or developed countries like United States of America, UK, all European countries, in these countries, human rights are respected and women have a lot of equal rights. And it is true. ये सही बात भी है कि developed countries में women have complete rights and they are on par with men. Whereas in developing countries, we have that problem. It is true. It's a fact and nobody can deny that. But there is a reason behind it, why it is so. इसलिए नहीं कि वो लोग हमसे ज़्यादा अच्छे हैं, हमसे ज़्यादा पढ़े लिखे हैं, हमसे ज़्यादा एजुकेटेड है. No, there is another reason. I will come to that. You have to understand why women have been treated the way they are treated in this world. So let's compare between UK and India. सबसे पहले तो आप देखते हैं कि कानून क्या बने हैं, कब क्या कानून बने. इंग्लैंड में पहली बार, यूके में फर्स्ट टाइम विमेन राइट के लिए 1870 में 1870 में पहली बार कानून बना, एंड दैट वाज कॉल्ड मैरिड विमेन्स प्रॉपर्टी एक्ट 1870. देन 1891, एंड प्लीज लिसन टू दिस वेरी केयरफुली, 1891 में right for a man to use corporal punishment on his wife was taken away. What it means कि 1891 तक यूके में आदमी को इस बात का हक था, राइट था कि वो अपनी वाइफ को मार सके, उसको कॉर्पोरल पनिशमेंट दे. वो राइट उठा यानी उससे छीना गया फर्स्ट टाइम. Women over 30 were given right to vote in 1918. Now we are in this last century, so please understand the years we are talking about. 1928, women over 21 were given right to vote. 1956, first time equal pay in government departments. And 1968, equal pay in private jobs. Let's look at the international law. एक तो हर country का अपना law होता है, and then there is an international law. So there is United Nations conventions on many things. And the first ever convention on women's right was enacted in 1952. That was first convention which gave political right to women, 1952. Please remember these years. And then from 1952 to 1979, various acts came into force. And then finally, 1979, the most important convention came into force, which was called Convention on All Forms prohibition on all forms of discrimination against women. फिर उसमें सब चीज़ों को ख़त्म कर दिया गया. Means that was the most important. Look at India's situation in terms of modern legislation. 1918, British were ruling India. First time a restricted right of vote was given to women, first time. That was first right given by law. I mean, I'm not saying there are lots of reforms that were done before that. But then came the independence. And then what happened? 1947, independence happened. Then Dr. Ambedkar was given responsibility to create constitution. Now that constitution, what a beautiful document it is. It has given every single right to women in that document in 1950. Understand this. There are lots of things that were done later on, small technical problems, but the basis of all the important rights were included in the constitution. So in a way, India was much better position in terms of legislation, modern legislation, as far as other countries are concerned. And that is thanks to this great man, Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. I cannot praise him enough. Honestly, I cannot praise him enough.